Okay, welcome to the Hank Cisco show. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't touch that dial. I have a special guest today. This isn't how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. Manja, okay. Go to right, you gotta throw the shoulder around with it. Right? Hey, okay, thank you, and God bless each and every one.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Hank Cisco Show. Let's go.
Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show. I'm Barbara Ann Zippi, executive producer with Ciao Bella Living Italian Style, and honored to be here as your host today in Hank's memory. And with Hank's memory comes some fascinating guests that he's brought you over the years. And we have a real exciting one today that's joining us, Phyllis and Mariani. And Phyllis's topics, so you'll have to stay tuned to listen to what she has to say that's so important, have to do with childhood adoption and pet adoption. Two topics that are so close to our hearts, and I think you're going to really enjoy our guest. And I'd like to welcome her as Pam Mariani. Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show.
Hi, Barbara. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, Pam, I'm so excited to have you here today because everybody has a book in their heart. Everybody says I should write a book. Everybody should say, right? I have a book inside of me. But when you meet somebody who actually has a book inside of them, writes it, prints it, produces it, you amaze me, I have to tell you.
Thank you. It was truly a labor of love.
Has to be. So the first thing is, and you know, we go back a few years, so I do know you as Pam, and the public knows you as Pam, a lot of our friends and yours, family. How did you come about that from your Phyllis and Mariani author name?
Well, ironically enough, I am adopted myself, obviously, and being Italian, my parents, when I arrived, had a big christening, and on the cake it said, "Welcome Phyllis and Mariani." One of their friends came in and said, "Look at that, P-A-M is Pam. That's really neat," and it stuck.
From that
moment on, it stuck.
Well, I'm really glad to know you as Pam, but one of the things you said is naturally your story of being adopted, which it's so nice that you're so verbal about it and sharing about it. How did your birth and happen in your adoption process?
It was really great. In fact, when my father always said to me, "Pam, if you ever do anything big, this is big, use your real name, which is Phyllis Ann." I don't know why he said that, but I believe that there is no coincidences, and hence, as an author, I go under my real name. And Baby Makes a Family came about because it meant so much to me to be his daughter, that they actually went and they waited a long time to have a baby.
How long were they married before they decided to have a baby?
Well, let's put it this way. They were late teenagers, and by the time I came along, my mom was 39 and my dad was 40.
Wow, they really waited a long time.
Well, they didn't want to, but they
circumstances.
did. Circumstances as they were, and they did. My father did not take no for an answer. If you knew my father, Naz.
And he was a prominent entrepreneur in his own right.
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about your dad?
My dad was just a little old contractor from Ardmore, moved his business up to Media, PA, because they needed more spot as they acquired more large pieces of paving equipment. And they were located in Media for many, many years.
And then he also, you have to talk about his major accomplishment.
A group of gentlemen who purchased a large parcel of ground in Edgemont Township went to him and asked to build a golf course. And my father said, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me." But through a lot of prodding and preparation, he did so, and that became Edgemont Country Club, which we opened. I said they got two aggravations on the same year. Edgemont and myself, both in the spring of 1960.
Wow.
So, Edgemont existed for about 55 years.
And you actually spent a good portion of your career in the
Yes.
family business with your dad as general manager.
Yes, after teaching, I left teaching, my special ed background, but still, even with Edgemont, I'm really proud to say that so many things that I was able to do. For example, the Special Olympics, the Junior Blind Golf, their national tournaments, even the National Blind Golf United States Championships we held. So I've been very, very blessed over all these years with a lot of events that I have to say some people may never have gotten to do, but I did.
So with all that activity, okay, when somebody says, I don't have time to write a book, you didn't say, oh, I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to write a book. So your book must have been created during a lot of in-between time of running a busy life.
It was, but yet it also, in my book, they're children's books, so they're not the novel, although there is one being in the process right now. But A Baby Makes a Family.
Let's talk about Baby Makes a Family, yes.
Came out because I wanted to really show my dad how much, and my mom had since passed, how much it meant for him, for me, to become his daughter.
So you
through
wrote this
adoption.
book after your mom passed?
Yes. And it's actually a poem. And the poem came out to be a book because so many people were, wow, that would really be lovely to give to my daughter who just adopted a child. Or in the community awareness that it would be great for foster care agencies because it shows the love and what it takes to really becoming a family. And it's told through the eyes of a puppy.
So now, when this book came out, or when you decided to take it from a poem to a book, this is a beautiful coloring book edition of And Baby Makes a Family. So it all has to be drawn. And I didn't know you to be the artist. I know you to be an author. So how did that all come about?
After I did the poem, we were very lucky. We had a lot of very good, sort of famous friends at Edgemont Country Club. And I went to one of them and had a talk, and his name was Warren Hawkinson, otherwise known as the Hawk, from Disney. He was one of the first animators for Disney.
So he worked for Walt himself?
Under Walt.
Under Walt, yes, when Walt was living.
And
amazing.
So I just wanted to talk to him about things. Unbeknownst to me, he just had a love for the project and asked me if he could illustrate it. Well, I mean, there are no words.
Right.
How could I get a Disney animator? But loved it, and you could see through, it's simple, but the reason why, and we both spoke of this at length, to do a coloring book, and that's why the coloring books mean so much to me now. It is, and being an author of this is so important. It's so special to me. But to be able to share the coloring books with local teachers and the community, we did the coloring books so that they would be able to color in their own family. Not everybody has a Labrador.
Right.
Not everybody has a Shepherd. So they could color, the children can color the books in what their dogs are, or whatever stars that they seem to think in their mommy. There's the mommy and there's the dog.
It's wonderfully illustrated. It's just beautiful. In addition to the message, which is so important.
And the message is important. So I'm excited.
It is. You know, the thing that came out of And Baby Makes a Family, talk a little bit about your search for a birth mom versus your mom that raised you.
Right.
And I know you did something special for them, but the process, did you always know you were adopted?
I always knew. In fact, my mom and dad when I speak of my mom and dad, that means my adopted mom and dad, because in my world, there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful women that have children. But I was picked, literally, handpicked,
yes.
and raised by a great family. Philomena, my mom, and Hannah, my birth mother. I did, when I was about 30 years old. About 30 years ago, I'll say.
Okay.
That And my father always said, why don't you search? Well, I didn't want to because my parents were my parents.
Right. Oh, he asked you to
yes.
search. Okay.
And so then I did, and that's where I found Hannah. And
Your birth mother.
My birth mother. And by then, they both had since passed.
Okay.
So I thought to myself, what better way to honor them was to start a scholarship foundation. And at the time, I had just been asked to be on the Delaware County Community College Educational Foundation Board of Directors.
Nice.
Another thing that was very, very close and dear to my heart. So I was there for many years. And as the beginning, when they were giving me the tour, the Delaware County Community College has a state-of-the-art nursing facility.
They do. Beautiful.
Unbelievable. Because my mother was ill, and my birth mother died at an early age, I thought, what better way to raise funds and start a scholarship in the field of nursing at Delaware County Community College.
So you found a way to actually honor your birth mother
Yes.
and your natural mother.
And it's called the Phil Hanna Fund Scholarship Foundation at Delaware County Community College.
And it still goes on today.
In Delco, Media, PA.
And you're very dedicated to it. I know that is really a nice tribute to both of them and to how you feel about the openness of it. Years ago, it had such a mystique about, staying under the radar with adoption. And today,
this is right. It's out in the open and it's there. I know that my parents had received some information on my birth family, but back then, as you say, it was sort of a hush-hush subject. But my father had given me, even as a little girl, a book called, and pardon me, I don't know the author of this, The Little Girl with Two Birthdays. And they always celebrated my birthday that I was born,
right?
and the birthday that I was born into their home, which was in August
Isn't that nice?
of 1960.
Well, your parents were amazing people and got to wait a long time for an amazing daughter. So you have a book, a poem turned into a book by a world famous Disney illustrator. Then how do you get a second book out of that? And how did Dingles come along? How did a second book come along, actually? Did you print this one
Again, no.
Okay.
But it was there.
It was there.
It was, Dingles was a poem.
Okay.
And one evening, and doing all of these things, as you could say, I get my hands dirty a lot in a lot of different things. My boyfriend at the time, Glenn, when he was talking about the dog, he's like, "Hey, I think it looks like a Dingles."
How about that?
I don't know why, but hence Dingles was born.
Hence, Dingles was born.
Dingles was born.
Dingles got a poem about the topic.
About him being adopted from the SPCA.
So encouraging pet adoptions.
Yes.
Now, another topic that's so relevant today, and yet you brought this out a while ago, you created this poem back then. How did Warren Hawkinson get to illustrate this poem?
Again, I had called him up, and we had still been in contact very, very closely. And I showed him, and he said, "Yeah, I do think you should write another poem for me," because he was getting along in years, up in years.
How old was he when you
In
did
his
your
early
book?
80s.
Is that amazing? Wow.
And when I asked him, at first he said no. Being older and been out of the loop for a while. And I'm like, "No, Mr. Hawk, you got to get your hands dirty. Like, if I'm getting my hands dirty, so are you."
Right.
And he loved every minute of it. It was a joy to watch him work.
So taking Dingles then, Dingles' story is about how to adopt a pet, rescue a pet from a shelter, and bring him into your home. Now, you have two poems, you have two illustrations. How do you get from all of this and then a stuffed animal to boot? How do you do this? What gives you?
It's just a lot of time, and believe it or not, computers were just coming out. There was no Google then when I started this.
Right.
Embarrassing to say, but this is how far we go back. And it was just a lot of time.
But a lot of people have a dream sitting in the corner, and it takes quite a while, as long as you keep putting that vision out there,
Right.
to bring it into something?
Well, after being shot down by more than one publisher, which is what most authors do.
Right.
I'm not the first, and I certainly won't be the last.
Right.
And the children's market is extremely difficult to get into, especially if you approach the children's market then with something that's already been illustrated.
Okay.
Most children's houses like to choose their own illustrators because they know what sells.
Yes. But you had the
Well,
luck.
I had
the luck of
Yes.
Walt Disney.
So, well, and Mr. Hawkinson loved it. I would never do anything, to discourage his wanting to work with me and working together. So, again, there comes Dingles, and with all the no's, I ended up going to Ex Libre and self-publishing all of my work.
Well, you also have a background in education, and you have a background in volunteerism in the business community.
Yes.
So you just decided that you were going to self-finance your
Yes. I
dream.
wasn't going to, at this point, after everything, I was not going to take no for an answer. And even some of the local teachers use these books, the coloring books, for ESL programs, English as a Second Language, which just came about a few years ago.
What a great
So
idea.
it's perfect for that with the community, especially in the climate of the community that we live in today.
Right.
So, and it's exciting. The bookstores used to love it, but the teachers even love it more.
Well, the
because-
bookstores are even consolidating.
Exactly.
It's,
Exactly.
It's so hard.
So we're looking into getting the hard copies back onto Amazon, but I like to be really with the community since I've always believed in giving back to the community, whether it be Edgemont Country Club or just even myself, or just as an author, that the books I think will go a long way.
Well, I think the coloring books, actually, you make the coloring books available to groups and organizations that
Yes.
that would like you to come in to speak
Yes.
a little bit about that. Are you comfortable going out? Do you enjoy interacting with children on these topics?
I love it. I love it. It brings back a lot of memories with the junior golf programs that I used to host. And again, my background as a teacher,
Yes.
adapted physical education, was my degree from University of Miami in Florida. So going
So you went to a fun college.
a very fun college.
I would imagine Florida is a great place to go to
Yes.
college.
And dealt with a lot of fantastic people. Jimmy Kelly from the Buffalo Bills right now was our Hurricane quarterback at the time.
How about
And I
that?
worked with the Hurricanes and their football program, which Coach Howard Snellenberger on the Easter Seal Society. They raised a lot of money, the Hurricanes did for them. So it's exciting. It's very exciting doing full circle and coming back with my books into the community.
Well, it's also an honor, besides honoring your parents with the topics, you're also honoring the legacy of Hawkinson, your
Yes.
illustrator, because he was certainly an illustrator of so many of Disney's
And Fisher Price Toys.
and Fisher Price. I didn't know that
Yeah.
one, but he was so prominent in his profession, but not in public recognition.
Absolutely not. He liked to take it very low key. He was actually even asked to do a portrait of President Roosevelt.
Wow.
But you would never know a lot of these things because of the man he was.
But
Very
what's
humble,
nice
humble
is
human.
you prominently display him, especially on Dingles' book.
Yes.
And it's nice it lets somebody's legacy live on, just like you've allowed your mother and your birth mother's legacy. And I love the way that you are so open about that. Actually, that you picked a slogan called "Share the Joy" that's attached to a lot of your stuff. So how does that involve Dingles and your stories?
I just remember that my parents again waited so many years to have a child, and their community, their family, their friends, when telling the story, as you can read in here, this is pretty much true to life of what happened that day. Everyone was just so ecstatic and excited and happy that my mom and dad finally get a baby girl. And that's it. And through adoption, we're sharing with it, whether it is your new puppy or your new kitty, or a little baby, or a teenager. You're sharing the joy, because there's all types of families growing these days, and it's just a joy. It's make it a part of your heart, and your heart sings, and hence share the joy.
And really, if we could bring joy into our lives more and enjoy that joyousness, when you embrace it, it could at least give you hope. So share the joys is a wonderful thing, but you also use that as your signature in your book signings, which is cool. So when you were talking about Delaware County Community College and you're being part of their Education Committee Board of Directors, you talked a little bit about volunteerism, mentioning you volunteer for that. How do you feel about volunteerism in the community, and what kinds of things do you get involved in?
Well, other than, and which I'm back involved with it now, the Junior Blind Golfers, which is a very, very humbling experience.
Now, for some of our listeners or viewers out there who are hearing you say Junior Blind Golfers, can you explain a little bit about what that association may be? Because they may be interested in finding out some information on it.
Ironically enough, we're going back to the dog. As a little one, I grew up with shepherds. And being around Edgemont Country Club, my father's partner, Tiny Padone, had a love for blind golf. In fact, we hosted Hope for the Blind, and Bob Hope, back in 1967, came to Edgemont Country Club.
How about that? But now you're actually saying that people with sight impairments, blind people, can golf.
Yes, on any different level. Blind golf is a team sport. You have the coach, and you have the player. So we've hosted them now at a new place where I'm at Valley View Golf, which is the old Masters property in Newtown Square. We have a lot of fun at charity events there as well. And in my background, again, I've been so blessed that my whole aspect in starting in business always has been, if you don't give back to the community, then why should the community come to you? So it's really important for me, and I have so many levels of interest in a lot of different things, as you can tell.
But doesn't that make your life more exciting and your life more filled?
If I didn't have it, yes, it fulfills not only my time, but it allows me to express my interests, and it fulfills my heart.
Well, it's funny, some of the guests that we've had on have recreated themselves on so many levels through their years from their college education. Did you ever imagine what life would be like when you were actually got your diploma in education and special education in University of Miami to what it is today?
No, absolutely not. And I'm not quite sure. We were talking about whenever the age I graduated, 22, 23 years old, that you just never really know what life has in store. And now I'll be 60 in April. Pretty much, I think everybody in my world knows that by now.
Okay.
And I'm blessed. I'm excited to be able to share everything of where I am now, and the things that have taken me year after year is because I gave myself, put myself out there, myself out in the community, joined different organizations, and one thing led to another, whether it be Domestic Abuse Project, whether it be the blind golf, Special Olympics.
But when you give of yourself, you get back in multitudes.
Multitude.
That's so true. And the way that you have worked your life, you talk a little bit about Valley View on Westchester Pike in Newtown Square,
yeah.
And what it is that's going to entertain the new Blind Golf Association.
We are going to be doing some little tournaments for them, but also it's quite a recreation facility. Not only is it a teaching facility for the driving range, but we have grass stalls and heated stalls and covered stalls to hit balls all through the winter. So we're open now 7 days a week, unless it snows. Then I'm like, okay, we'll see about that.
Okay.
But we also have miniature golf and mini putt-putt.
And they're always fun to do, putting down the cell phone and going out.
Yes.
And doing some physical work or
And
physical
it's
play.
a lot of fun for the kids. And kids on every level, from 5 to 105.
And that's true. You know, you talked about how you take what we have and share it with other people, right? With everything that you've done through your career, you've pulled it along. Today's technology world for women our age, in our age group, it's more exciting actually to take an old project and resurrect it now, don't you think? Because of all the technology that comes along. You mentioned you did all this prior to an internet and
ink
Google.
and paper.
Ink and paper.
Hand, ink and paper.
I know. Is that amazing?
And not even a typewriter.
No, not a typewriter?
I didn't have a typewriter. I didn't have a computer. I like that pen, pen to paper. But it's funny that you should mention technology. I'm going to be meeting with some people, so we don't really know where these are going to go. But hopefully you'll see them maybe. In the old days, we used to call it the boob tube, the television.
Well,
So we're going to see what happens. Again, it's going to be a whole nother exciting path to go down on, and we're going to see.
I think that the topics are ageless,
Yes.
timeless, right? It's amazing. One of the things you mentioned were what makes a family today. And it's exciting that all walks of life can enjoy a family unit. Family units are made up of so many different...
Very diversified, which is fabulous.
Yes, it really is exciting time for families out there, and it gives a nice feel to adoption, and it's changed the way our outlooks have been from when we grew up with what adoption was like. And then the rescuing and the pets in that industry, some people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for animals that do end up in pet shelters. And or they just,
yes.
like you said, sometimes they drop them off and then they just dump them in the wilderness,
Exactly. And it's a shame, even, when we see the turmoil going on with in the news today, we see that there are a lot of pets that have been abandoned for one reason or another. So we're really blessed to have these shelters, the SPCAs and the shelters and the local shelters, to be able to take these pets in before they find their forever home.
Right, because there were so many that we were losing every day because of that. But the adoption service for pets has really gotten pretty good in qualifying who the new pet owners are going to be.
Yes. Yeah, it's an exciting time for a lot of things.
Yeah, so now in some parting words of wisdom of what you think is important for young people that feel stuck or feel that they have, where do they start to get to put a book down? How do you do it? Where should they start to get that book from inside their gut to the next step? What is it? How do you do it?
All I would say is really, it sounds just so simplistic, but just start. If you have it in your heart, just start. Because it'll come about. And it don't give up, because if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Keep knocking on those doors. Just like some of the managers of local and national bookstores told me, you have a product, it's beautiful, and it has meaning, and it should be shared.
And so sharing what's in your heart is an important attribute to take your love. And they do say, when you focus on what you love,
You've never worked a day in your life.
It is true. It's true. Well, I've enjoyed our friendship a lot because I know we're, all from Delaware Valley, whether it's Delaware County, Chester
Delco.
County, Montgomery County. But in our travels, we've been in each other's companies on some committees and on some projects, sharing some mutual friends. And I have to say that it's very interesting now to hear the new tips on how to help young people interact in the community, and it's put your cell phone down and network.
Exactly.
And
we've been doing that for years.
Right. So everything old is new again.
Yes.
So now the new buzz thing to do is eye-to-eye contact, because you walk in the hospitals, you walk down the street, you walk in the grocery store,
Yes.
everybody's in their screen. Me too. I mean, but when you do put it down, and you do get to interact with somebody eye to eye,
It's a whole different story.
yes, and it makes lifelong friends.
And we grew up that way, thank goodness, with our families and our other friends. So, eye to eye, thank you very much. It's fantastic being here today, and thank you for letting me share.
Pam, I am so glad you came here to share the joy of adoption and Baby Makes a Family and how to help rescue pets. If you're interested in bringing Pam out to one of your groups or organizations, or getting your hands on some of these coloring books for your ESL students, or to, share the story with your classrooms and have the children have a little bit of education and fun at the same time, you can always get Pam at her Gmail address or her phone. And again, I'd like to thank you for joining into the Hank Cisco Show. We always try to bring you something that will help share your heart. And on behalf of my Italian roots, ciao Bella. Enjoy your day.